Family Violence Memorial Vigil. And thank all of those who are joining us here and also those who are live streaming from their homes. My name is Rita Butera and I'm the CEO at Safe Steps Family Violence Response Centre. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting on and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I want to say that some of the content tonight may be upsetting, and we do have trained counsellors here, over here on the right-hand corner, holding a flower with lights, who come from our 1800 RESPECT team who are available. You can also contact 1800 RESPECT or the Safe Steps line at any time, night or day. I would also like to let Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people know that there will be some images or discussion of people who have died. We're here tonight to pay our respects to people who have been killed by family violence. We are here to remember them, to honour them, and to stand with those who love them. Farah Mack will be guiding this evening's proceedings, and please join me in welcoming Chanel Chandler, who will call us to ceremony, Auntie Joy, who will welcome us to country, and Craig Murphy performing the smoking ceremony.
Waniat Gabone Nara Jara Moon Dureron Waniat Gabone Nara Jara Moon Nara Jara Moon Narajaranun Wanya Gabone Narajaranun 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 Duredron Wandiat Gabone Narajanun 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 Duredron.
Notkunwa to my beautiful granddaughter for calling you to country, to ceremony on a special occasion and from the spirits of our ancestors. Also Notkunwa to my son Craig Murphy for performing the smoking ceremony, or the balm bearing as we call it. And both, although they have two separate words, the meaning is symbolic of healing. Chanel's words were coming together. Let's come together for a healing of hearts for all time. The balm bearing is about a new beginning, a new place to go, a new place in your heart. And also that we, as the traditional owners, will help come along that journey with you through the spirits of our ancestors. Tonight is a very special event and a moment that we can all reflect on in some way. I particularly want to thank the acknowledgement of our community who have dealt with many of these issues, and of course to those of you that are here tonight. Wurubadinda. We are sorry. I'd like to also pay our respects to our ancestors, elders and communities across this great nation and neighbouring islands. And Nod Kunwa to them for the strength that they have given us to continue this long and arduous journey. But we acknowledge that that strength has been strengthened, that stamina has been highlighted through your gift to us of support and acknowledgement. I'd like to thank Safe Steps for inviting our family here tonight, together with your family, Nakwaran, our Nakwaran, all of our Nakwaran, so that we uniformly and united can help to heal this journey. It's a moment like this when times are sad, and there'll always be memories, and those memories are to cherish and to hold for a lifetime. We hope that our part of this ceremony means something of value to you, and also the significance of what a loss can be, and in such situations that could have been or should have been avoided. Can I also acknowledge, and I won't go into names, but acknowledge each and every one of you that are here tonight together with your culture, and I pay your cultures and I pay my respect to you and yours respectively. I will mention that we do have our Minister Gabrielle Williams, thank you for coming along, and also Sally Capp, our Lord Mayor. And to the City of Melbourne, thank you for such a moment to be able to take a non-traditional country, which is part of my father, my great-grandfather, and can't say whatever that word that should be, but nevertheless on the family lands of the Wurundjeri people. Also tonight is the welcome to ceremony, the Wominjaka, and of course the gift is sharing the gift that we've been given, and the gift is ours of the eucalypt, of course, of which we use for the balm bearing. There will be leaves here for you, and they will be offered to you shortly. And taking that gift, and we hope that it will help you as we say to you that you are most welcome on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people. And we say Nodj Kumwa for accepting this gift. And also, united, we will work together so that we can have a journey ahead that looks more promising, and let there be no further tragic events from these incidents. I also have some ochre with me tonight, and I'll also be coming around to you with that. And of course this comes from the earth. We call this Gerald, and it is also what we regard as a ceremony for when there is Waikit, when there is death. So I hope that you'll take the opportunity to share in that as well. Our language is the Woiwurrung language, Wominjaka, Wurundjeri Balik, Kundibek, and you are most welcome to the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people. Nodj Kunwa.
Thank you, Chanel, Auntie Joy and Craig for such a beautiful and captivating welcome to country and ceremony. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land in which we gather tonight, here on Wurundjeri country and other lands across Victoria. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. My name is Farah Mack. I'm honoured to be your host and join with you here in this beautiful garden this evening for an evening of reflection and remembrance. Thank you for making time to reflect and remember. Your presence here tonight is powerful and will also help to create a ripple effect to bring change and make an impact to lift the veil of silence that surrounds family and domestic violence. Family and domestic violence affects all people from all walks of life and takes on many forms that are not always physical. I would also we share this family violence memorial garden, forced adoption memorial, taken not given, which you'll see in the centre. Around Melbourne tonight and in regions across Victoria, buildings and landmarks are lighting up in purple, illuminated in memory of lives taken by family and domestic violence. We honour and remember them. Through the purpling of Victoria, together we raise awareness of long-term consequences and effects of domestic and family violence. Together we are choosing to be a part of the solution, to say no, not now, not ever. And tonight, we gather to light candles to remember the too many lives lost in this national tragedy, this national crisis. I would now like to introduce and welcome Aishwarya. Ash is a survivor advocate and family violence trainer, speaker and specialist who will share with us tonight about honouring and acknowledging lives lost due to domestic and family violence and victim survivors experiencing family violence. Please welcome Ash.
Thank you, Farah. The name of my speech is Stolen. The land that I stand on is stolen Aboriginal lands. The statue of the young mother and her children is an acknowledgement and remembrance of forced adoption practices, of stolen childhood, of stolen dreams and futures of parents and children. This memorial, this place, is to honor all lives that were stolen tragically in my family and yours too, before they could have reached their full potential. I wonder how many of these children and adult victim survivors reached out for support and heard, "Just leave," or "This is your private matter, it's for you too to work it out." Or, according to our culture and our religion, a woman need not access finances. Be grateful that your spouse provides for you. I wonder how many of these women and children weren't seen, heard, or believed before they tragically lost their lives by the hands of someone they loved. How many of these children called out with words or ways that they had and didn't have their voices heard. We are 4 months into this year, and as of April 8th, there have been 17 women and 16 children and young people who have died due to violence, including domestic and family violence. I am saddened to think of those lives that were lost, that were stolen, that are unreported, those we have lost from suicide, drug or alcohol or mental illness related to family violence. Behind each of these numbers is a life that is stolen. Aspirations, dreams, and potentials that have been stolen. This is not a problem specific to culture, religion, or diverse cohorts in our community. It is a problem that affects all of us from all walks of life. I will end with a metaphor. A baker adds many ingredients to the flour and leaves it to rest. The process happens in stillness. It is not yet bread, and it is not quite flour. It needs a place to rest and to simply be. This process of resting is what makes bread rise. This is a place of rest for those of us who grieve the loss of our loved ones, for those of us who grieve our former selves before violence stole that from us, for those of us who don't have the language to express or identify. It is also a place to rise as a community, as individuals, to stop the violence, address the existing power imbalances, inequality that underpin the pain, grief, and ongoing loss. It is a place to reflect, bring light and healing, to keep our Victorian communities safe and free from violence. I invite all of us to listen intently to the voices of children and adult victim survivors. Some of these deaths could have been prevented. I carry hope in my heart that as a community we will be advocates of change, to respond and step into places to question, to have conversations in our workplaces, within our families and social circles about respect and equality. Thank you.
Thank you, Ash, for that heartfelt, insightful and important message. Next, I would like to welcome and introduce the Minister for Prevention of Family Violence, Gabrielle Williams, MP.
Thank you very much, Farah. And before I begin, please let me acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we're currently gathered, the Wurundjeri people, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and a special thank you to Annie Joy, who always does a beautiful welcome to country and who shares in the heart of every moment in doing so. So thank you, and also to Craig and Chanel as well. We are so very fortunate to have you share your culture with us and to unite with us on such a special and sad occasion, and one that is so important to our journey to move forward. Tonight we remember those who have been killed as a result of family violence and all forms of violence against women, overwhelmingly killed by men who were supposed to love them. We acknowledge the painful and ongoing impact for those who have lost loved ones. Phil, Lizzie and Donna, we remember Vicky. Grace Donato isn't here with us tonight, but we remember her daughter Adriana. Tash, I know your thoughts will be with your brothers tonight, and we will keep them in ours as well. Jaya, I know your thoughts will be with your daughter Megan. Karen, I know your thoughts will be with your daughter Rakaya. And Katrina, with your baby Sophia. And possibly others here too, who are thinking of their loved ones, who were sadly taken from us far too soon as a consequence of violence, too often men's violence against women. We also acknowledge those who live with the ongoing trauma of family violence, and I want to give a particular acknowledgement to the members of our Victim Survivor Advisory Council who will be here with us tonight. Survivors who give so much of themselves at great personal cost so that others might not have to experience what they did, so that others might not have to live through the trauma that they do. It is for them and for those no longer with us that we undertake this important family violence reform work that I know that all of us here are so very committed to. I also want to acknowledge Rita Butera and the team at Safe Steps for pulling together tonight. I know the weather wasn't on your side, but you've made the most of it, and it looks beautiful, and you've done a stunning job. And also I know we've got the Lord Mayor Sally Capp here with us as well, and my colleague from the Victorian Parliament, from the Upper House in the Northern Metro region, Sheena Watt, who is also here with us tonight as well, and so many others I could acknowledge. This really is a gathering of incredible people and a display of incredible commitment, so thank you. On average, a woman a week is murdered by her current or former partner in Australia. Already this year in Australia there have been now, after the weekend, 18 women killed, and as we just heard, an estimated 16 children, and we're only, just over 4 months in. At least 1 in 3 women will experience physical violence in their lifetime, perpetrated by a man they know. And we know this is compounded by intersecting forms of discrimination and disadvantage. Aboriginal women, for example, are 45 times more likely to experience family violence, and where violence does occur, 25 times more likely to be killed or injured. 25 times. Women with disabilities are also significantly more likely to experience family violence, and when they do, they experience more frequent violence over a longer duration and with more severe impact. Gendered violence causes more illness, disability and death than any other risk factor for women aged under 45 in Australia. The leading cause of death and disability for women aged under 45 in Australia. And on average, a child a fortnight is killed by a family member. These are incredibly sobering statistics, but they are far more than just numbers. They are lives, they are loved ones, and with their passing brings enormous lifelong grief for so many. Tonight, like many of you, I'll be lighting a candle to remember and honour all of those who have had their lives taken, who have been murdered by someone supposed to love them. Tonight is a powerful visual statement at this Victoria's Family Violence Memorial, recently opened, and across our city, lit up as it currently is in purple, and rightly so. A statement that we will no longer allow family violence and violence against women to be hidden behind closed doors, that we will send a clear message that sexism is not just poor taste, it's dangerous, that bad attitudes towards women lead to bad outcomes for women, too often lethal outcomes for women. And we know that regardless of the gender of the victim, that 95% of perpetrators of family violence are men. This is, without doubt, a gendered crime. We still have a long way to go to change the attitudes and behaviours that contribute to violence. We know that. But the work is so important. It has to be done. And each of us has a role to play in bringing this violence to an end, in calling out bad behaviour, challenging negative stereotypes, and building healthy concepts of masculinity, healthy masculinities, healthy men. No one should have to live with family violence, and no one should have to grieve the loss of a loved one because of family violence. No more lives should be taken because of gender-based violence. I know we all share in that ambition, in that objective. It's why we're all here tonight. But I want to say thank you. Thank you again to Safe Steps for organising it. Thank you for our speakers, who I know are giving so much of themselves to be here, but doing so to share such an important message that there is only one acceptable outcome, and that is a Victoria and Australia free from violence.
Thank you, Minister, for your impactful and heartfelt message and for being here with us tonight. The display here symbolises those who have died from family violence in the past year alone in Australia. 30 large candles represent the number of adults who have been confirmed to have been killed by domestic, family and intimate partner violence. 14 smaller candles represent the children and young people who have been killed this past year alone and are too often forgotten victims. These are just those that are counted. We know the numbers are higher. Sadly, 2 more lives were taken just this week. Throughout this candlelight vigil tonight and beyond, we stand united to remember and honour the person behind the number. To all of the family and friends who have lost a loved one, may your loved one's beautiful light shine bright within you tonight and always. We will never forget them, and we cannot stop advocating to put an end to this crisis until this violence stops. We will now hear from people with lived experience of family violence, or who have had someone taken through family and domestic violence to share their thoughts and stories. I would also encourage anyone here tonight who would like to share their own message to do so on the message tree located to my left, or if you're virtually joining in online with the hashtag #LightACandle2022, or by dedicating a virtual candle via the Safe Steps website. I would now like to welcome our speakers, Karen, Tash, Katrina, Libby, Jaya, Phil and Lizzie to share their thoughts.
Tonight I'm lighting a candle for my daughter Rakaya, who was killed by her partner 8.5 years ago. Just a few weeks ago we would have celebrated Rakaya's 31st birthday. However, now we only have 22 birthdays to remember, and every special family celebration is now bittersweet without her. From the birthday milestones of her siblings Jessie and Indiana, to Jessie's wedding, and most recently the birth of his first child, Rakaya's first niece. Time goes by and other people move on, but when you've lost a child or a sibling, nothing is ever the same again. We were an ordinary family thrown onto a path we would never have imagined. Family violence can happen to anyone. It is never okay, and we must strive together to stop it. To make any sense of Rakaya's death, I felt compelled to become an advocate against family violence and try to do all I can to stop this from happening to other women. Being on the Victims of Crime Consultative Committee for 2 years also enabled me to contribute to improving our justice system, particularly in the area of homicide by firearm. These memorial gardens will be a lovely place to visit to remember the many women who have died, and it is comforting that we can all come together to honour our loved ones and know that they will not be forgotten.
Hi, tonight I'm going to be sharing a poem. I'm dedicating this poem to my brother Matthew, who died after ending his life in 2014, and my brother Luke, who recently died by ending his life earlier this year. I can't tell you how hard it is to wake to realities I can't escape. Maybe being born was a mistake when everything's bound to break. No one told me the price, the things I'd have to sacrifice to live despite my birthright. I'm not sure this was worth the fight. My head will always ache with a past I can't erase, an agony we should have never faced, but I'm still hoping we'll see daybreak. Suffering was always just life, and silence kept us out of sight. The system never worked to make it right. Now we've lost a future that should have been our right. They took us to court, they heard our case, they made decisions, they said, for our sake. But they didn't even know our face, or the pain from the choices they make. They took us, they told us we'd be safe. They never taught us that trait. So maybe it was always our fate to live in a violent, traumatic state. When our father died, our justice was denied. He would never pay for his crimes. Still, I thought we'd made it out alive, but trauma lasts a lifetime. We had to unlearn our past, too late for most of us. We were left with permanent scars, and now my brothers rest among the stars. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Auntie Joy for Welcome to Country, Craig for the smoking ceremony, and Chanel for the calling to ceremony. When they welcome us to their homes and their lands. I'd like to pay the respects to my elders past, present and emerging. I'd like to acknowledge all the victim survivors here tonight and across the world. We are united in our collective grief. My name is Katrina Harrison. I'm a proud Palawa woman. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a member of a Victim Survivors Advisory Council. Tonight I ask to join with me and remember and honour all the Aboriginal people who have lost their lives to family violence. I remember my daughter Sophia, who died before she was born due to family violence. She lives forever in my broken heart and in my blood. Thank you for the chance to speak her name and remember her at this beautiful healing place for us.
I'd like to pay my respects to the Wurundjeri peoples of the Kulin Nation and acknowledge elders past, present and emerging, and any other elders of other communities that might be here today. My name's Libby Jamison. I'm the Teleweb manager at Switchboard Victoria, and I'm here tonight to light a candle for all the LGBTIQA+ people who've been impacted by family and intimate partner violence. I'm here to acknowledge the LGBTIQA+ people whose lives have been lost to violence. I'm here to acknowledge the unknown numbers of people who have died by suicide as a way of escaping the violence they're experiencing. For all of those who think they're alone and there is no help available, for all of those who are rejected, abused, and targeted because of who they are, I stand here today to let you know that you're not alone. There is help. We see you and we hear you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Megan, my beautiful girl, was a vibrant, funny, compassionate, free spirit with a passion for life. She'd have me in stitches with her humour like no one else. She loved to keep fit and healthy, a big component necessary as a critical care emergency nurse requiring quick thinking, responsibility and working collaboratively with the medical team. An upstanding citizen, an organ donor, now helping 5 other people. Many of her friends acknowledged Megan at her recent funeral of her empathy, understanding and support during their times of struggle and hardship. With strength and tenacity, courage, self-respect, Megan removed herself from a vicious, debauched, ugly monster who abused, manipulated and controlled her, destroyed her soul, stole her money, cut her off from all her friendships. But like a phoenix, she rose up to honour herself and her own truth and dreams. Police reports, intervention orders, lawyers do not make us safe. Counselling and medical services don't work collaboratively. Mental health suffers. Alone, she was scared for her life. She tried desperately to get the help she needed. But at the last straw, so even more painful decisions were made to end her shocking struggle, the fear and distress of taking her own life. Domestic violence and suicide is very prevalent, but it is preventable. This needs to be addressed urgently. Thank you.
To my dear sister Vicky, I wish I could turn back time as to when I was that 14-year-old girl holding your hand and skipping down the street with you. I remember how we laughed, danced and sang together. Little did I know that our time together would be cut short in the most unimaginable way. My world completely changed the day you were taken away from me. You were my best friend, a second mum and my big sister all in one, who I think of every single day. I love you and I miss you.
No, it doesn't matter. That's my sister. This is my sister Lizzie, who I explained tonight is 21 years younger than me. She was only a child when she lost her sister. And I want to say firstly, though, to you, Auntie Joy, thank you so much to you and your family for that engaging, beautiful welcome. Our sister Vicky would have relished the opportunity to sit with you by the smoke and talk about your history. She was that kind of girl. But on Valentine's Day, 1989, the man who deliberately stabbed Vicky to death was found not guilty of murder under the misogynist provocation defence. The next day, that man, a man with a history of violence against women, was sentenced to 3 years and 11 months in jail. I want to say to you, dear Vicky, I am so sorry that no Prime Minister and no Premier has ever apologised to you for what happened to you outside your place of work, a kindergarten, and in that courtroom, under the guise of bourgeois patriarchal justice. Tonight, as a former member of the Federal Parliament, an independent 30 years ago, I'm calling on the two men who want to be the next Prime Minister to commit to an apology to all of the women abandoned by patriarchal justice after being slaughtered by some violent misogynist man. Tonight, I want to say to you, young Vicky, and to our mother, Lorna, that you remain our inspiration. And recall how our mother, Lorna, said in an undated letter after you were taken from us, Vicky, that you were a beautiful child who became a wonderful adult woman. Mum's letter to her daughter is genuinely heartbreaking. So I want to say, as I've said in the written word and the spoken word for the last 35 years, that you, dear Vicky, will inspire me and Lizzie and every campaigner to end the vengeful misogynist violence that is claiming 60 women a year. Tonight, young Vicky, I say to you and all the women taken and abandoned by patriarchal justice that we love and remember you, and you are our inspiration. To you, dear Vicky, thank you.
Thank you all so very much for sharing and ensuring your loved ones are never forgotten. Your courage, strength, vulnerability is resonating tonight, and I hope it makes an impact to everybody here and everybody tuning in. Let us now take a moment for 1 minute silence in remembrance. With love, hope, compassion, and gratitude for everyone who attended this evening and for all of our amazing advocates, we thank you for your presence. The vigil will now conclude with a song from Ashley Nicole, Songbird.
There'll be no crying. To all those who have died from family and domestic violence, we love you, we remember you.